Hello, this is Adrian from my channel Random Drop. We're about 2 weeks into Shadowlands now. I have 2 level 60s, a level 60 enhancement shaman, which I have quit playing, for my level 60 unholy death knight. Most of the week, throughout the day, it was a lot of me just leveling my death knight. The leveling system they did account wide, right? Because once you beat the story, it allows other characters just level how you want. It basically gets to a point where it's just like, hey, you escaped the maw. Here, you can just pick any zone, pick your covenant, and just boost ahead and just, level how you want. Do dungeons, do whatever you want. And here's some things to provide for that. World quests and bonus quests around the areas to, supplement that. And that system is really good. Really enjoy it. Even though the story is technically faster, I prefer this method more because you can just mix it up, right? You can do different things and different runs through the worlds and through the lands, leveling different ways, rather than this linear story path. And then if I want to do the story, sometimes I'll just do it. But other than that, I've been doing the main progression of the game, right? Doing the weekly renown quests, which is just grinding a couple world quests so you get enough anima, which is fine. Finish that stuff pretty early. It is fine. I'm glad that a lot of the world quests and grinding and all that, it's super optional compared to BFA, where just that weekly Azurite grind was a fucking pain. And then you had to do islands, which I fucking hated islands. And a lot of this stuff really is super optional, and I prefer it that way. I feel like, hey, I can get done with the game for the week and then come back at it later, right? Especially with mythic keys coming up is more of a thing like, hey, get my key up to where I want it and then stop. And yeah, I'm enjoying that it doesn't feel like I'm missing out when I'm not playing the game. It doesn't feel like the game is constantly telling me play. I wish more stuff was unlocked, of course, but I'll continue on with the game and see as more renowned stuff unlocks and hopefully becomes more interesting over time, just keeping that sub going. It is a weird and sketchy thing to do, to make half of the game locked away on weekly quests and all that stuff and weekly unlocks, but whatever. This is how they're building their game, fine, because there is plenty of other content to do. And now the other content is, dungeons, and heroics is one of them. There's a weird problem right now where certain bosses drop items to craft your legendaries, and it's different for every class, and different bosses drop different ones. But what people are doing is joining heroic dungeons and then killing that boss, and then it doesn't drop and they just leave that dungeon because they have no incentive to finish the dungeon, which is a real problem. They really need a system like a token system, which they used to have, and 14 has ripped since then, where, hey, you get something at the end, because it feels terrible to get nothing at the end of the dungeon. I've had so many dungeon runs where I killed every single fucking boss and all I ever got was a gold reward, and that's it. I have nothing to show for what I was in there for. The gold reward is jack shit. And yeah, that's a terrible feeling. At least something in 14 or back in Wrath, you finished the dungeon and you got some fucking tokens and you could save up and eventually buy something useful. And at a certain point, right, you probably don't need any of that stuff, but it's the fact that you're still getting something at the end of that dungeon, right? You did it for a reason. I think there's a daily reward for 35 anima, which is fucking garbage. It should be 100 or 150 to make it even worth it, but I digress. Heroics are fine. They're super easy. They're 10% harder than normal, which means they're fucking super easy. Mythics, I would say they're on the scale of Wrath of the Lich King heroics, kinda. Yeah, all it comes down to is let's blow this boss up before it does a mechanic that might actually kill us. And I've done a couple of them so far. Hopefully, maybe there's some more challenge in the other ones, but I imagine all of that challenge is in mythic keys, and regular mythics is really just a very base hey, these fights have actual mechanics now, you should pay attention to them, rather than heroics doing that, because heroics are fucking super easy. But yeah, I did a couple mythic runs, got some loot. I got a lot of loot, actually. I think I got a legendary crafting item for one of the legendaries for Death Knight. It was fun because it was somewhat challenging at least, and I did have to pay attention. The bosses were still rushdowns, but overall it was nice doing something where I wasn't completely brain dead, because again, normals and heroics are very much that, and world quests and all that, because we did wipe a couple times, fuck up here or there because we missed one mechanic or something like that. But yeah, totally more interested in doing more and doing harder versions of that and running those with friends and with timers, right, and getting into all of that. I'm super excited for that. The other part of endgame is the maw in Torghast. The maw is a fucking terrible zone and a terrible idea, and it's done terribly. It needs a whole rework. It sucks to be in. It's fucking terrible. It's a fucking awful place to be. And I'm they kind of want that, right? Similar Eureka, or something like that, right? Not that they're copying Eureka, but like that similar feeling of like, hey, they want to put some danger in the zone, but they're going about it the completely fucking wrong way. Hey, hi dog, how you doing? It's rough. Like from World of Warcraft, who is a very polished, and they polish the shit out of everything. The maw is super rough. Torghast, on the other hand, you can tell it's very polished and very well designed. I just think that design is garbage. They took, you know, what effectively is Palace of the Dead from 14, but then split it up a bunch of different chunks, right? And it feels good on some classes. I did it on my enhancement shaman, and it was like, oh, this is kind of like fun, right? Because all the powers I was getting were interesting, and like kind of broken, right? There was like this one where like, hey, my totem that I grab heals you constantly, and I stacked that like 5 times. So anytime I dropped the totem, it was constantly healing me, and I could just like tank the whole fucking dungeon because I had so much healing, and I just cleaved everything to death. Meanwhile, in my death knight, I was having trouble clear floor 3 act because all the powers suck. Like, yeah, I was getting more powerful overall and building, but like a lot of the abilities I got was like make Mall Rat explode for damage and shit like that, and it's a bunch of useless shit. And I had a bunch of runs where I got a bunch of useless shit, and it was terrible feeling. And apparently there's like a internal timer where, hey, if you're in here too long, eventually it'll kick you out, or there's something chasing you to kill you, but there's no timer or anything warning you on the screen. So you've been in there a while, and you can kind of forget like, hey, how long have I been in here? Should I be looking for shit, or should I rush to the end? And it's hard to gauge. I'm sure maybe someone will make an add-on because maybe it's like a hard 30-minute or 60-minute timer or some shit. But sometimes they could take a while, man. Especially like the Act 3 or Floor 3 or whatever the fuck they want to call it. It was a bit more tough than the other ones. But yeah, I mean, I ran a couple of times and failed a bunch of times. And then I finally said, fuck it. And I went in as a Blood Death Knight and crushed it. Because I can't die. I just pulled the whole damn dungeon and tank it to death. And eventually it'll all die, and I'll save a bunch of time because I pulled the whole dungeon. Like, tanks are super broken in it, and there's no challenge in it. Overall, Torghast, I wish it was a side activity that you had a choice to do, and you could get some stuff out of it. And then the harder stuff was like a bunch of cosmetic shit. Instead of it being so directly tied to player power, where you need to do it for Soul Ash. And yeah, I imagine not a bunch of people are going to love it, because it is kind of fucking boring and tedious, especially when it's like you by yourself. And I've heard some of the multiplayer scaling is kind of fucked at this point. Torghast is a neat first trick. I hope they do more with it in the future, for sure, but it definitely needs a better look at. I think they need to have less random powers and more like straight like Final Fantasy 14 has, right, where it's just like, this just makes you do 30% more damage for 5 minutes. Just take it. Like, you just do that. Or here's a thing that just like turns you into a monster, and you like put debuffs. Here's a thing that like just lets you knock things back into the wall, and they'll die instantly to help you clear a floor a bit easier, rather than like some really vague shit that they give you in some of those power-ups, man. And you could just have a terrible run and get a bunch of garbage, and then you're getting to that boss and you're just like, I literally mathematically can't kill this thing because I didn't amass enough power. And yeah, that's Torghast overall. Yeah, I'll keep doing it, I guess. 5.4 is coming out soon. Well, soon. It's coming out fucking Tuesday. So I'll be playing that, doing the story for 14. But I will still continue with World of Warcraft, do these weekly updates, and probably do some for 14 now too. Because I won't be raiding immediately in 14, because I'll wait for the guides and the strategies to come out, and that should get cleaned up a bit, because I'm not a hardcore raider, but we do Savage, but I ain't gonna be there in the front lines fucking smashing my head. Like, I'll wait a bit, right? And I'll just do my dailies on my characters so I can, you know, start getting some tome gear. But other than that, yeah, Cyberpunk is coming out, and I'll play that. I still have Yakuza 7 to fucking play, and yeah, I just got a ton of stuff to play. I dropped Genshin because it was just eating up a lot of time, and there was not much more to really do other than just power up your characters, which at a certain point was just like, why am I doing it? There's no new content, there's no harder thing to do, except for like the tower, which I just don't find interesting. But I dropped that, and that's why I've had more time for WoW. And yeah, I'm gonna continue doing it, get into Mythic Pluses and follow up with that. But I'm very much excited for 5.4 and what's to come with that game. I'm super excited for the fucking story. I holy shit, that game is crazy. Other than that, I will follow along, keep continuing on World of Warcraft. Again, it's well designed. It's a lot better than BFA. I'm over. If you want a systems heavy like MMO with like a bunch to go into, right, and a bunch of different options, then definitely like give WoW a shot. It is as good as it's been in a long time, really. At the early start of this, it could all crash and burn, but there's no obvious Azurite problem like there was before. Overall, it's just like Torghast and them are fucking annoying, and that's about it. Everything else is like pretty solid. If you have any comments on like, hey, leveling, or hey, how your experience in Shadowlands has been, so far? Leave it below. Are you excited for patch 5.4 on 14? Anything really. I'm here to talk. I will probably be streaming more this week in terms of like everything I do. I do stream usually after 6 p.m. Central Time after I get off of work, and just kind of stream whatever I'm playing at the point, be it 14, WoW, or whatever other stupid bullshit I managed to pull out my ass. This is Adrian from my channel Random Drop. Please visit me on twitch.tv/rando_0268, and I will see you next time.